we are the sum of our experiences, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. And the message in this new realm that I'd like to get into with the keynote speaking is the sum of those experiences.
Welcome to Change Your Mindset podcast, formerly known as Improv is No Joke, where it's all about believing that strong communication skills are the best way in delivering your technical accounting knowledge and growing your business. An effective way of building stronger communication skills is by embracing the principles of applied improvisation. Your host is Peter Margaritis, CPA, aka the Accidental Accountant, and he will interview financial professionals and business leaders to find their secret in building stronger relationships with their clients, customers, associates, and peers, all the while growing their businesses. So let's start the show. We are the sum of our experiences. Really struck me when my guest Dino Tripodis uttered those words in our interview. As I'm sneaking up on 60 years old, I've stopped many times since this interview and thought about those past experiences and how they affect my thoughts and actions today. For example, my father was a very punctual man, and being late was never tolerated. Well, of course, I hate being late, and I don't like it when other people are late. Now, where I differ from my father is that I understand other factors could cause me or other people to be late. So I harbor no resentment when my bride was 20 minutes late walking down the aisle at our wedding. She said she was on Greek time. Who am I to argue? But I digress. We are the sum of our experiences, and our response to those experiences can make us either successful or continually bringing us down and blaming others for our faults. Dino's response to his past experiences have made him wildly successful, and let me share with you some of his successes. 24 years as the morning co-host on WSNY 94.7 FM, nicknamed Sunny 95 in Columbus, Ohio. Dino is also a headlining comedian, podcaster, actor, producer, writer, published author, professional speaker, and philanthropist. His podcast, Whiskey Business, the podcast not so much about whiskey as it's one with whiskey, is one of my favorite podcasts to listen to and to watch on YouTube. I've seen Dino doing his stand-up, and he is a very, very funny guy, and you'll hear that throughout this interview. Dino is the co-writer, co-producer, and actor in a 2017 movie, The Street Where We Live, which can be found on Amazon Prime and has a rating of 8.5 out of 10. Prior to the interview, I hadn't watched the movie, and I promised him that I would, and I did. The movie's about a single woman with 2 teenage children who struggles to hold her family together in the aftermath of a national financial disaster. After watching this movie, I sent Dino the following text. Very powerful movie. You have painted a new and lasting perspective in my mind about the struggles that many families deal with more often than not. At times, it was hard to watch because of the emotions that were bubbling up in my body. In my opinion, this movie is worth the 1 hour and 40-minute investment of your time. Now, there's a lot packed into this episode, and just like a good storyteller, Dino makes us laugh, but more importantly, he makes us think and reflect and ponder. I hope you enjoy this episode. And before we get to the interview, let me take care of some housekeeping issues.
This podcast is part of the C-Suite Radio Network, turning the volume up on business.
In July 2020, I received an email from FeedSpot informing me that Change Your Mindset podcast was selected as one of the top 15 communication skills podcasts you must follow in 2020. Wow, I was completely caught off guard and extremely honored. I would like to thank every guest that's been on my podcast for the last 3.5 years because you are the ones who make this podcast successful. Thank you. And now a word from our sponsor.
This episode is sponsored by Peter A. Margaritis, LLC, aka The Accidental Accountant. Are you looking for a high-content and engaging speaker for your next conference? Do you want to deliver a story to stakeholders that will transform data dumping to engaging business conversations? Do you want to feel that the value a speaker provides your audience far exceeds the dollar value on their invoice? Then book Peter for your next conference, management retreat, or workshop. Contact Peter at peter@petermargaritis.com and visit his website at www.petermargaritis.com. By the way, one of his Fortune 50 clients actually made the comment about the value he brings to your audience.
I put in the show notes the links to Dino's podcast and to his movie, The Street Where We Live. I hope you enjoy both. So now, let's get to the interview with Dino Tripodis. Hey, welcome back, everybody. For those of you who live in the central Ohio area, you may recognize this voice.
Really?
Can you guess who it is?
Based on really?
Based on really? They could.
Maybe.
So my guest today is Dino Tripodis, former 24-year
long run
radio host at Sunday 95 here in Columbus, Ohio.
The one and only radio job I've ever had. Started on the morning show, ended on the morning show.
And you've been now how long out of radio?
I left in June of 2018.
Wow.
Seems like yesterday, Peter.
I bet it does. And being of Greek descent,
As you are as well.
as I am,
Which begs the question, I'm sure you've been asked this before, but with Margaritis, right?
Right.
So do you, and I'm sure people have asked you this before, do you feel obligated to celebrate excessively on Cinco de Mayo based on the form of your last name with Margaritas?
Well, if you think about it, Dino, it's pronounced like a cocktail, but it's really spelled like an inflammation.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
It could be, and on Cinco de Mayo, it could wind up being both.
Exactly. So I prefer not to save it all for one day. I like to moderate throughout the whole year.
Because if my last name was, say, Dino Genesis, on St. Patty's Day,
Right.
I would feel obligated
Right.
to honor the derivative of that last name.
Well, if you must know, I do a few shots of tequila on Cinco de Mayo.
You got to, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
you have to.
it's like, yeah.
You just got to do it.
If your last name was Christmas and you didn't do anything on Christmas, people would think, what's wrong with you?
You Jewish?
Huh?
You do it there.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So of Greek descent,
Yes.
and growing up in a Greek household where guilt is the number one flavor.
Yes, it is.
And
We have that in common.
Yes, and your mother, I've heard on previous podcasts, she wants to know, what are you doing these days?
All the time. She's backed off a little bit, but for the first 6 months after I left the radio station, that was an almost everyday question, to the point where I said, what are you going to do today? And I would say, well, after this conversation, I'm going to take the red hot poker that I've heated up and stick it in my eye. Don't you have another child that you can ask questions of on a regular basis? And of course, that would be the Queen. My sister calls me, I call my sister the Queen. My sister calls me the Prince. She thinks that the Prince can do no wrong.
Right.
And I think that's probably just how the family dynamic works in a Greek house. My sister lives in Florida, very close to my mother.
Okay.
And they have never been apart. I mean, they lived together in Indiana. My sister moved to Florida. My sister eventually moved my mother down to Florida. They are an integral part of each other's lives as long as I can remember. So my sister, in my opinion, and I say this sincerely and with love, my sister is the Queen. And I don't mean that she's elevated and my mother's, to me, she's the Queen. She's the best. She's the best. My mother would not be thriving as she is at almost 84 years of age if it weren't for my sister.
Funny that that story that you just gave, that's my sister and my mother. They live in Florida. They've been apart, I think maybe a couple years when she was living with me in Cincinnati. My father passed. My sister went down 19 years ago, 20 years ago to take be close to mom and you. Yeah. And you've just described my family too. I appreciate that.
Yeah. But except you're a few points ahead of me because I noticed you said that when my mother lived with me in Cincinnati, my mother has never lived.
My sister lived with me.
Oh, your sister lived with you?
My sister lived with me. Not my mother.
Not your mother.
No.
Oh, okay.
Mom, if you listen to
all
this,
right, then we're
sorry.
back to square one. We're back to even.
So I always you still are a headline comedian.
When I get the opportunity, as a matter of fact, I don't know when this is going to drop, but I agreed to do a show out in Granville. There's a Moe's Comedy Club. It's a little small 80-seat room in Granville. And they also apparently have a great barbecue as well. And I'm doing that show February 8th.
Okay.
And honestly, I can't wait. I'm excited. I'm excited because most of the stand-up I've done lately has been, 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there, 5 minutes here. I haven't gotten a chance to stretch in a while.
Oh.
And I'm looking forward to it because I still write. I still write. You have your book. I see your big book there. I have this book here, and whenever I get ideas, I still jot them down and try to incorporate them into my life. And I'm developing a theme, comedically speaking, that I think is appropriate. And you could probably relate to this as well. Eventually, I plan on making it a show that's entitled "Cool, Calm, and Neglected."
Cool, calm, and neglected.
As opposed to collected, neglected.
Yeah.
Because that's the way I kind of feel at 60 years of age. I'm cool with where I'm at in life. I'm calmer than I've ever been. And I feel neglected. And I don't say neglected in a negative way. I say it in a positive way because at 60, people don't give a shit what you're doing. I'm sorry, can I cuss?
Yeah, you can. It's okay.
They don't care what you're doing. They don't pay no mind to the 60-year-old.
Right.
So you can get away with a lot of crap.
Yeah. But you're not that guy that yells at kids like, "Get off my lawn."
No. No. I not get off my lawn so much, but I live across the street from a Catholic high school.
Okay. Yeah.
And these kids, these kids when they're leaving on any given day, especially in the springtime, I will stand on the front porch and go, "Slow down." They go speeding out of there, and everyone's like, "Oh man, I'm that guy."
You're that guy.
I'm that guy.
So how'd you go from comedian to DJ? I know you.
Happy accident. I make a joke, but it's not really a joke. I've said this before on my podcast and others. I haven't chosen my jobs so much in life as they have chosen me. I was an investigator prior to stand-up.
Right.
And I went to comedy clubs to relax and have fun. And then I went to open mics. And then I got the gumption that I could do that. And I went into an open mic and I failed miserably. But I got a couple of laughs. So that just got into me. Like, if I got a couple of laughs and I sucked, if I worked on this a little bit more, I bet you I could get more laughs.
Yeah.
So I went back 2 weeks later and I won the night. And then someone said, "You should go to the Funny Bone and do open mic over there." Because at the time that was at a place called the Comedy Club at the Ramada.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So I went to the Funny Bone. Long story short, there was a Johnny Walker comedy competition that Johnny Walker sponsored.
Yeah.
And the winner got $500. I still have the enormous big check that you get. Yeah. My daughter gave me that a while back because I had given it to her. And then you also got to open all of the Funny Bones that were in the franchise. And there were like 13 of them at the time. And as an opening act, you could do them twice a year. So I went from open micing to all of a sudden, 26 weeks of MC work in the number one chain in the country at the time, the Funny Bone, which I still think. Yeah. So life was kind of dictating. Yeah. And at the same time, I was still doing investigative work. So I had to kind of marry the two as best I could. But eventually, after that year, I said, it got into my veins and in my blood. And I said, I'm going to go full-time comic. While I was a full-time comic, there was a radio guy named Mike Fiss who was at Sunny 95. and he liked having comedians on his show. So I would go in and pay these visits to Sunny 95, and they were very successful visits. And then I would do a phone in from the road. You know, where's Dino? Mike left, and another guy named Bob Simpson, who was there before and left and then came back, and he wanted to keep that going. So I kept on doing it. I was living out in Los Angeles at the time, trying to progress there comedically. And there was an opening at Sunny 95 for a co-host with Bob. And I said no, like 2 or 3 different times. I finally relinquished and said yes. Came in 94 to Sunny 95 to do radio. Right. Thinking they made a horrible error. This won't last more than a year. And technically it did not. That show failed. A year later, Bob was let go, and Stacy and myself and my producer at the time, Mike Elliott, who is now the program director at TVN, AM radio, we were left to our own devices, and we all collectively agreed that this was October of 95, that they're going to get a new morning show. Let's not worry about it. Let's just assume come December, we're all out of work. I'm going to go back to California. Everybody else is going to do what they want to do. So let's just pretend like every show is our last and have fun. And we did. And the result of having fun, the next book, the ratings went up. And then in January of 96, in the general manager's office thinking, hey, thank you, but no thank you. He was glad this will work out, blah, 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 expecting a nice goodbye. They offer us a 4-year contract. And I go, now what?
4 years.
Yeah. Well, no, because in my head, I was prepared to go back to Los Angeles, because I was, even in that first year, since the demands of radio weren't on me so much as I was just the co-host. It was Bob Simpson and company. I was part of the company. Okay. So the demands weren't that difficult on me. So I was still doing stand-up. I was still on the weekends. I would go, you know, and on vacations. I would, instead of going on vacation, I would book a week and I would take vacation days and still do long weekends out in Los Angeles and you know, keep my spot at the Comedy Store and at the Improv. I would go out there and keep my foot in that water. I still had a place to stay out in Los Angeles because I didn't think radio would work out. And then one thing led to another, and 24 years later, you know, there you go. You know, you find out you've become this institution of sorts in Columbus, which I did not ever think that or realize that until the last week I was at Sunny 95.
Really?
I did not. I've never thought that. I always thought that I was this lucky guy who got this great job, and I was very fortunate. It gave me the opportunity to be clever and funny and creative, and then also, without sounding, too magnanimous or whatever the word might be, it gave me the opportunity to give back to all the charities, DeSaco, Down Syndrome, Children's Hospital. Yeah. But I never thought, oh, look at me, you know, look at what an impact I've had on this city. But the last week I was there, the outpouring, I was taken aback by it. People telling me stories of moments where I supposedly touched them in some way, you know, from 9/11 to pulling off to the side of the road on 315 and helping this lady who was on the side of the road, you know, and helping her and running out in the middle of traffic on 315 to pull something that had fallen off the roof of her car that she was trying to move or whatever. I was just blown away. Blown away. Yeah.
I understand that. You're very kind, very humble, but man, you cast a huge shadow in this town. I mean, and the charity work that you've done on Christmas for how many years? I mean, you've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars.
For Children's Hospital, we've raised millions over the years. Oh, we did. And they're still continuing to do that. That effort is still going strong. And the holiday show at the Funny Bone for Down syndrome, that's raised, thousands over the years as well. But,
so you've transitioned out of radio. I still assume that you're still doing a lot of your philanthropy stuff. You're giving
whenever I
time.
can, right now it seems to be focused on Down's syndrome, DeSacco, whenever I can throw something their way in a charitable event or cause. I still host the Buddy Walk every year, which is huge. It's the number one buddy walk in the country now. And I started hosting that in its infancy when it was like, 300 to 500 people. And now it's tens of thousands.
So I guess once a radio guy, always a radio guy, because you have a very successful podcast, Whiskey Business.
Whiskey Business. The podcast, not so much about whiskey as it is one with whiskey. Yeah.
That's right. And that caught my ear the first time I said, this will be an interesting podcast.
It is, because it's like I said, not so much about whiskey as it is one with whiskey. That's the only running theme. You have a different bottle of whiskey, which you're not forced to drink, as some of my guests do not drink.
Right.
And it's not a requirement.
Right.
But it's, I have this bottle of whiskey, learn a little bit about it, and then I share that with my guests. And my guests have ranged from A to Z. We've discussed this. It's from an astrophysicist early on. We don't have a Z yet. I'm still trying to get Jack Hanna or somebody from the Columbus Zoo. But yeah, they range from all walks of life. And this week we dropped Jenny's Ice Cream.
Right.
Charlie Bauer was on there talking about the development of that amazing company.
Right.
And how it started and all the trials and tribulations they went through. Yeah, I love it. I love it because, and it is radio-like, but it's not, because there's no interruption. I don't have to play a Maroon 5 song.
Right.
I don't have to stop for a 10-minute stop set for commercials. And you get a chance to really take your time and get to know your guest and find out things. It's made me a better interviewer. And if I were to go back into radio, I think as a result of podcasting, I'd be an even better radio person, which I think is something that you should never stop striving to be, whatever your field might be.
Right.
I don't ever want to be, I don't ever want to top out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to this is as good as I'm going to get.
Right.
I always think that there should be more to learn and grow and gather,
right,
for lack of a better word.
And it could be from, I don't know if it's raised up in a Greek family, because it seemed like that was always put in front of me. Just keep going.
Well, always keep going, and also not good enough.
Not good enough.
Not good enough.
Well, so your movies, is it on Netflix? No, it's on Amazon Prime.
Yeah. Is it in the theaters, honey? No, the movie's on Amazon. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've listened to a number of your episodes, and we share a lot of the same.
Well, one of my favorite episodes, speaking of guests from all walks of life, was the one that I did with my mother. And then there's Mom. That podcast.
I missed that. I gotta go.
Oh,
listen
you
to
never listened to And Then There's Mom?
I have not. No.
Do yourself a favor.
I'm going to.
Do yourself a favor. Watch it as opposed to listen to it on YouTube, so you could see those familiar Greek facials and reactions to questions. My mother was she 83? No, it was before she turned 83. So it was Easter of 82 when she was 80, not 1982.
So last year.
She was it. Well, I don't know. She's 82 or 83. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I think 82. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It was magnificent.
Yeah. Easter of last year, which Easter? American Easter, Greek Easter?
Greek Easter. But I think it was the Easter before that one.
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
I can't remember.
And your mom's name is Christine?
Christine,
yeah. So I will definitely watch it. I'll grab Mary and we'll both watch it.
Oh, yeah.
And actually, I'll watch it up, so I'll even mention it in the intro as I record that for this episode to go out. By the way, I did watch this, and I'll make some comments.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You'll have to. You'll relate. And it's also been one of the most viewed and successful of the podcasts. I mean, we have a pretty good download ratio, but as far as, and we're still trying to increase the YouTube viewership.
Right. That's tough.
There's so much out there to compete with. But that one, got like I think most views we've ever had.
Now your mom used to come on the radio show with you on Sunday 95. And I don't remember, was it at specific points in time, or was it just
there was
random?
A time where she would come up for Mother's Day, and we do a Mother's Day broadcast. And there's other times where she's just been in randomly, and she would come on. But she was she's always so funny. Kevin Pollak, the actor Kevin Pollak was in the studio with us when my mom was there, and my mother kept calling him Kenny.
Okay.
And he took it, and you want to call Kenny's fine, Mr. Tripodis. Yeah. Kenny's fine. She kept calling him Kenny, and she loved him, but she kept calling him Kenny. Go, Ma, his name's not Kenny. It's not. It's Kevin. I'm sorry, Kevin. And then she'd go right back to Kenny, 2 minutes later. But
that's hilarious.
Yeah, she's great.
Now, just if my mother's listening to this, yes, the idea is now put into my head that I need to come down and interview you on my podcast.
Oh yeah,
that can be dangerous, though.
Just in the opening, there's a cold open before the podcast actually starts, and it's just me and my mom talking. I'm explaining to her, what we're going to be doing, and she goes, and she's like, I don't know. She's almost disgusted. I don't know how you got into this. She's looking at all the bottles that are around, on the set of the podcast. I don't know how you got into this whiskey business. And I go, Mom, I'm not into whiskey business. I'm trying to explain to her, but it's great. It's got very funny moments. She's still very quick.
Good.
I mean, people say, where do you get your sense of humor? My father had a wry sense of humor, but I think the sarcastic side of me, that part, the self-deprecating side of my humor comes from my mother, for sure. Yeah,
I got most of my humor came from my dad. He was a very funny guy. I'd bring a girl over for the first time, and he'd go, "Son, she's a lot better looking than you said." Mm-hmm. Hey, boy, why don't you? Here's 50 cents. Go get a paper. Let her stay here, and we'll talk for a while. Yeah, so that was my dad.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, thanks, Dad.
Thanks, yeah.
Appreciate it, pal.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. But you've done a lot of things in your life. I mean, you've been in movies, you produce movies, you have your own film production company.
Never the Luck Productions, yeah.
You're an author.
I'm trying to be.
Published?
Yeah, I got a short story published last year in a collection that's available on Amazon.com. I can't remember what the theme was. Driving in the Rain at Night. It's a collection that they put out every year, and they have a different theme. And on a lark, I said, all right, I'll take a shot at this. And at the time, sadly, it was inspired by my cousin Tommy, who passed away needlessly, I might add. And the story is called Bearing Witness. And while the two characters have nothing to do with Tommy and myself, it's a fixer and his partner in crime, if you will. But my cousin Tommy checked into a hospital with a heart condition and never left because he just started to progress. And that's what this story is about. Bearing witness. He has to go to the hospital and decide what to do with his friend, because it flashes back to a point where they say, hey, if something ever happens, if I ever get stabbed, if I get shot, whatever the case, and I'm suffering, don't let me suffer, put me down, So while he hasn't been shot or stabbed, he's suffering. And so there's a moment where he has to decide, what's he going to do? Is he going to put him down or let nature take its course in the hospital? So it's dark.
Yeah, it's deep.
It's dark and it's deep. And I say needlessly because my cousin Tommy, if he would have taken better care of himself, if he would have responded to the things that were wrong with him, if he would have taken his medication when he was supposed to take his medication, he wouldn't have wound up in the situation he was in. So it's just a damn shame.
Yeah, but your mind is constantly looking at, from my perspective, constantly searching, looking, seeing, and then you're writing about it in some way, shape, or form. Do you sleep?
More now than I did when I was in radio.
Well, if I remember correctly, you could survive on 4 hours of sleep?
Oh, for years. And right now it's averaging somewhere between 5 and 7. So that's more.
Okay.
We were talking you said you like to write in the morning.
Yeah.
I like to write in the morning too, but I do my best writing late at night. So, when 9, 10, 11 o'clock rolls around, I will be up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and writing. That's my favorite time. It's quiet. I'm truly alone in my thoughts. The morning too, but there are far more distractions in the morning, even early. You got guys like Pete Margaritis that text you at 5 a.m.
And good call out. Yeah, actually, I did. I was up at 5 a.m. and I realized I did not send that last night, so I just went ahead. Guys like me text you at 5 o'clock in the morning.
So phone doesn't go off nearly as much in the middle of the night. But there are some early risers. They get going at 5 o'clock in the morning. Like, oh, okay. And that's funny because it didn't wake me up. Yeah. It did not wake me up. I did wake up at 5:30 on my own, and I went, oh, he texted me at 5 a.m. because I sometimes turn the ringer off in the middle of the night because for email notifications and whatnot, and most of the time I'm a light sleeper, so even a little beep, would bring me up.
I didn't even think about that. I was up this morning, looked out, oh crap, I forgot to send it. Poof. I figured he's sound asleep. He's not going to hear this. He's probably a deep sleeper. But then
so you wrote it last night.
Yeah,
I forgot to send it.
Yeah, I forgot to send it. I looked at it this morning and went, oh, forgot to send that this morning.
Well, and good for you for being up. You get up at 5 a.m. all the time?
Most of the time. If I'm up, my son will come home and he's been out or whatever during the week or whatever. If I'm up past 10 o'clock, he goes, what are you doing up?
Yeah.
Are you okay, Dad?
Yeah.
No, I'm fine. Just felt like staying up today.
I love the night.
I used to.
I do. I still do.
I used to, but
it was a problem when you did a morning show.
Well, yeah, yeah. There was no way I could do a morning show. Actually, when I managed restaurants in the Atlanta area, I'd get home late, and then I had to be back at the store. And I can't tell you how many times I showed up late to work just because just could not wake up that next morning. And I've turned into a morning person. I have 2 dogs, and they like to get up early, and they like to wake me up. And I'll get down, make a cup of coffee, and just kind of start my morning and stuff.
Good.
Yeah,
that's good.
But then by 8:30, 9 o'clock, I'm usually passed out on the couch. Sleeping on the couch. I was sleeping on the couch.
By nighttime.
At nighttime.
Or I was going to say back on the couch at 9 a.m. We're like, okay.
No, I'm usually asleep on the couch by 9, and I don't nap. I'm pretty much.
I have discovered I do nap a little bit more.
You do nap a little bit.
I take what they, but I take Da Vinci naps. Did you ever hear about Da Vinci naps? You look at the outpouring, the massive amount of work that Leonardo da Vinci put out, both in art and inventions and so forth and so on. It's because the man didn't sleep, but he did take 42-minute naps.
42. Is there something special about the 42?
I don't know if there's something special about it. 42-minute naps. I might have the number just slightly off, but he would rest for 42 minutes and then work for 4 to 6 hours at a time. Take another 42-minute. He would take these little power. He was the inventor of the power nap. Yeah. And there were some other people in history too that I can't recall that did things like that similarly, where they would just rest for a little bit and then just go back to the work.
I'll take a nap if I'm completely exhausted, but I'll wake up because my body will just start uncontrollably twitching, which will wake me back up. Now, Mary's aunt in Greece always says, "Rest 20 minutes."
20 minutes. 20 minutes.
Just rest. You don't have to go to sleep. Just
rest the body.
Just rest the body.
There's something to it. Yeah. There's something to it. But yeah, I've learned to appreciate that a little bit more. I don't do it every day, but I would have no problem doing it every day. But once the day starts, we talked about doing this. Like noon is good because once 10 a.m. starts, the day starts rolling, and early in the week too. We're doing this on a Monday. I said do it Monday as opposed to let's get this moving on a Monday because the week tends to snowball and there's other things that start getting in the way.
So our paths over the years have crossed in a variety of different ways. I shared the story with my cousin Georgianne and Buzzy and their parents Harry and Jenny. We came to see you at Go Bananas in Cincinnati.
That's a long time
A
ago.
long time ago, and you were doing your Greek stuff.
A long time ago.
And about the grandmother with the great big boobs.
The BGGBs.
Yeah, and my aunt almost... I mean, I think you had to stop and look at her because she was just laughing.
Big
so
Greek.
we all were. It just
Big Greek
tears.
grandma breasts.
Yeah.
She gets out of bed in the morning, they hit the floor before her feet do.
Keep going. You're doing this part just for my cousins now.
You hear 4 thumps. You're downstairs, you hear 4 thumps. Yaya's up. Only hear 2. She just leaned over the edge of the bed for a glass of water. And there was on the tag. One morning we heard 3 thumps. We don't know what the hell that was. But some people say grandpa. A classic.
A classic.
A classic.
And then I don't remember what year it was. I had gotten to the finals of the Funny Bone Funniest Person in Columbus contest, and you were emceeing that night. And our paths have crossed, but it recently crossed when our good friend, I don't know if Caperton think of me as a good friend, but I'm just going to throw him under the bus and say he
Dave Caperton.
Dave Caperton.
Funny man who could still get up on a stand-up stage today if he wanted to and kill it.
He doesn't want to?
I don't know if he wants to or not, but I'm saying, I saw him recently speak.
Yeah.
Because I know what you're getting ready to lean into.
Yeah.
And while he delivered his message as a keynote speaker, intermingled in there was the foundation of stand-up.
Right.
And if you could pull, out of that 45-minute to an hour presentation, if you were to pull all the jokes, the humor out of it, it would be a killer set at any stand-up club at any given time. Right. So there's no doubt in my mind that he could do that again if he chose to.
It's fun. We did a speaker showcase up in Cleveland, August, I think of 2018, and we brought the film crew in because speakers always want film, video, and he told the people that, so if you mess up, stop, pause, and move forward. Everyone at least once or twice stopped and paused, except for Caperton.
Right.
He did his, I don't know, was it 15 minutes? Was it 30 minutes? I don't know. But he went from start to finish, did not miss a beat, completely nailed it.
Not surprised.
Yeah. I should just, we should just try to get him back up on stage.
Get up on stage.
Yeah. Let's start a campaign.
I'm trying to, I mentioned it to him. You mentioned Whiskey Business, the podcast. We also have what I call a side hustle sister podcast, The Premise.
The Premise, yeah.
And it's recorded live at the Upfront stage at Shadowbox Live. And that is a combination comedy show podcast. You're handed the 2 comedic competitors are handed a premise that they're seeing and getting for the first time that night. Then they go to the writer's table and have 20 minutes to write 3 to 5 minutes of stand-up comedy based on the premise they were just handed.
Right.
In the meantime, while they're working, we have a guest comic who performs and sits down with me, and I interview them. And then by the time that 20 minutes is up, the competitors come up, do their thing, then they sit down. So it incorporates both comedy, podcasting all in one. It's a great show. It's really starting to take off. And I've asked Caperton to be a competitor. Not a guest comic, a competitor, because I think that brain of his is still mining gold. Yeah. And I think he could take a premise. Yeah. I think he could take, I'm grabbing something out of the pencil bin here. Yeah. I think he could take Black Sharpie and write 3 to 5 minutes of stand-up material in 20 minutes about a black Sharpie or anything related to Sharpies. I think he could do that. And he's interested. So,
cool.
So if that happens, you have to come down and check him out.
So I was getting ready to watch the one from the most recent one. I think Nikki Winkleman was on. And
that was
Jeff Gage.
Jeff Gage, and Nikki and Jeff.
And there was another gentleman.
Kenny Mock was the guest comic.
Okay.
He was the guest comedian. Yeah, he did great. Kenny killed it.
I've listened / watched a few of them. And are they at a certain time, day, month?
Yeah, 3rd Thursday of the month.
Okay.
So we just did January. We'll be back in February, the 3rd Thursday of the month in February. We're also going to expand the parameters of the premise and include sketch, 2-person sketch competitors as well.
I wasn't thinking about going down this path, but I'm going to take it on. Are you thinking about doing the sketch on the bit that you were sharing with me the last time we were having coffee about something about selective hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to do that one?
You just prompted my memory to remember that. That could work. Yes, I would do that.
You're talking about you sitting around with the family and
that was that. Though I actually did. That was an actual bit that I did. Thank you for reminding me, because I got to remember to do that when I do Mo's. Yes, I've forgotten more bits, but that one's fairly new. That one's fairly new. But the selective hearing, how everybody, families all together at the same time, but nobody's listening at the same time. That could very well be a sketch, but I perform it. I play all the parts, when I do I did that. I did that at I debuted that at the premise when I do a little bit of stand-up up front to start the show. And it worked. It worked out well.
Yeah, because but this is how your mind works, because as you were talking about that, I went back into my head, I've had a number of those conversations. The one that I'm going to write is my mother talks in vague. Does your mother talk in vague? Those people over there? He called me yesterday. I had to go see him. Who's him? The guy.
Who's he?
Who's he? The guy. Who are you talking about?
And then they get mad at you.
Right.
Because you don't know.
Yeah.
Remember that show? What show?
Right.
Oh, the one we watched that day. What day?
Yeah.
When I was there visiting, then by the third question, they start to get angry.
Right.
You're wrong now. When I was up there visiting you.
Yes.
Last Easter, we sat on the couch. She'll tell you everything that we ate, but she still won't be able to remember the damn show.
Yeah. I went to the doctor. Which doctor? I went to the doctor. The doctor. Which doctor? The doctor. The doctor that. So she. I
speak in vague. That's very funny.
Yeah. My mother speaks in vague a lot. So you do all this stuff, but you have a message. Because you showed up at a National Speakers Association Ohio chapter, curious about it.
Very curious, and still am not only curious, but plan in 2020 to put it into play. Right. Yeah.
So today is January 27th, 2020.
Right.
So we're in the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your plan?
Oh, no. No, I do know. I was thinking about this when we discussed the fact that we were going to do this podcast, what the message is. And it could be, I think I've narrowed it down to a couple.
Okay.
I mean, you mentioned, I left Sunday Night 5 in June of 18, and I get that question all the time. Everybody says, how's retirement? Well, I don't feel retired by any stretch of the imagination. And nor could I, afford to not draw some sort of income in the years to come. I need to still throw some things into that bucket that I've saved over the years. But I preferred, instead of retired, I like the term, in the last year and a half, I've been refocused. And I think there's a message there about a refocusing and I mean, what is retirement actually? What is, to me, the archaic definition of retirement is sitting on my front porch and telling kids to stay off of my grass, But refocus would be me writing a story about sitting on my porch, telling kids to stay off of my grass, and find the humor in that and expand upon it. There's things that I have now the time to do and devote more time to, but that also requires discipline and confidence, and I need to not beat myself up so much. I am my harshest critic as well.
Right.
My buddy Jamie says, when you die, when you're writing out your will, I want all your unpublished manuscripts, because there's piles and piles of writings up in my office that I deemed not good enough to send out to be, accepted or rejected. I just cut to the chase and said, it's crap. And
I've heard that before earlier in this conversation.
Yeah.
That's not good enough.
Not good enough. Yeah. And they're up there. And he goes, I want them. Because when you die, then there's going to be this whole treasure trove of, unpublished stuff. And someone said the same thing about music. I used to write music.
Oh.
Back in my early 20s, there's one point in my life I thought I was going to be a songwriter, because music was a big part of my life. And I've come across these reel-to-reel tapes and cassette tapes with dozens and dozens and dozens of songs, original music, and some of them are angst-ridden 20-something crap.
Yeah.
and some are not bad.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm being, you know, if I could be objective, and like, oh, there's actually a real melody in there, but they are, you know, they're definitely reflective of life in the early 80s for sure. Yeah. And I must have been one angst-ridden 20-something in the 80s, man, because, you know, like, wow, man, did somebody tell a joke?
Well, I mean, but you did stand up for so many years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the ultimate rejection.
It can be, yeah.
I didn't. Rick Roberts once told me recently, over the last few years.
Rick Roberts, great comedian.
Yeah, clean comedian.
Yeah,
Barney Fife guy.
Oh yeah.
That don't take your jokes. The audience silence. Don't take it personally. It's you're bringing your product to the audience. They're examining your inventory. If they don't like it, that's just a fodder for you to go back and fix it.
Right.
I took it personally.
I never took it personally.
Yeah, I did.
And I should have, because to this day, and even back then, my act was very personal. It was about me.
Yeah.
I didn't do topical humor.
Right.
I didn't talk politics. I didn't do, you know, everything that I talked about was steeped in truth of my life, much as it is now. Back then, it was, you know, being a divorced guy with no money. You know, when I first got divorced, nothing. You know, I talked about that. You know, talked about my apartment. You know, I don't want to say my apartment's small, you know, after the divorce, but, you know, I'm the only guy I know who can shit, fry an egg at the same time. You know, it was stuff like that. But it was steeped in truth, and now it's steeped in truth. You know, I was writing stuff down just the other day, you know, about where I'm at life at 60, you know, emotionally, physically, sexually, you know, it's all streams that flow into the same river.
Right. I have that same river, and I do write my stuff down. I just don't perform it because maybe you just brought something, because maybe it's just not good enough. I've written some sketch, and I've never shown anybody. I've shown a few people about it, but never kind of patient.
And don't you question why? Because you have this podcast now for how many years?
3.5.
Yeah, 3.5 years, and you put out a great message. You've written books.
Two books.
Successful.
Yeah.
Right. You sell them. They made money.
They're making money.
They make money.
Yeah.
So why would you? You don't doubt this podcast. You think you have a good product here. You don't doubt the 2 books that you put out. They're successful. So why do you draw the line? Why? I don't want to point at you exactly, but why do we?
Yeah.
Why do we, with certain things in life, tend to draw a line in the sand that we're afraid to cross because we don't think it's good enough? Are we ultimately afraid of rejection? I mean, nobody likes to be rejected.
Right, no, my mind towards rejection has changed. It's failure. You've mentioned you failed a number of times.
Oh God, I'm still failing.
Right, but that's good because we learn.
My mother thinks I'm failing as we speak by not going to a place of employment Monday through Friday.
Right.
Yes. In my mother's eyes right now, she would never say it, God bless her, but she thinks I'm failing.
Right. But when we fail, we learn.
Sure.
You didn't grow up in that household that you fail, you learn, because if you grew up in a similar household, that my dad did not like failure at all. He did not like mistakes. I have to turn to my brother to remind me of stuff in my childhood because I don't remember a whole lot. But the things I do remember was when there was a mistake. Dad didn't take it well, and failure was not an option. So I've learned how to deal with it. I've learned how to get past most of it at times, but there's still that little bit of that.
Which brings me to what you said, what's your message going to be? And I think this one probably resonates louder. And, you tend to, if you pay attention, you tend to go to, what's drawing you. And life, no matter what stage of life you're in, if we go back to our 30s or now me at 60, how old are you?
59 and a half.
59 and a half. Yeah.
And 212.
No. It's funny you say that. When we get to that age, we're 59. We didn't do that. When we were kids, you were 2.5, 3.5, until you were like 5 or 6,
Yeah.
and then you just started calling the number.
Yeah.
And then as we get older,
Yeah.
you start using the half again because you don't,
60's a long way away right now.
59 and a half. I still got 6 months.
Yeah.
Don't rush it.
Yeah, I get 10 months, but I kind of rushed myself in.
But my point is that we are the sum of our experiences.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Good, bad, or indifferent. And the message in this new realm that I'd like to get into with the keynote speaking is the sum of those experiences. So I think when I look back at my convoluted childhood, and I have some dark holes too. Something, it's weird. I can remember something at 2 years of age, but I can't remember a lot from 5 to 7. I remember because I was sick. I had, if you listen to the podcast with my mother, I thought it was I thought it was double pneumonia with 1 collapsed lung. It was double pneumonia with 2 collapsed lungs, 6 years of age in Children's Hospital in Chicago. I remember being in an oxygen tent. I remember stuff like that, but there's a lot of things that I don't remember. Sadly, I do remember a lot of the pain. There's a 4-piece article. What island are your people from in Greece?
My grandparents, Thessaloniki, Asia Minor, that part.
We're Icarian, from Icaria, and they have a magazine that comes out quarterly for the Icarian membership, and I just recently, it'll be in the February issue, and they come out with a quarterly winter, spring, summer, fall, and they've agreed to let me do a 4-part memoir type of article. So this first part that's coming out, it's called Boy Without a Country. And this first part, it's coming in at about 1,000 words or so, deals with leaving Dalton, Illinois, suburb that we lived in Chicago, and moving to Icaria in 1968.
Oh, so you moved to Greece?
When I was 9 years old.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and those, my friend, those were some dark times for me. Leaving a suburb of Chicago, leaving a neighborhood that you thought you would grow up in, and leaving friends and so forth. And to move to an island in Greece in 1968, which things in Greece were a little bit troublesome back then, and then especially Icaria, because Icaria is very close to Turkey. But to completely have a lifestyle change at 9. That's what this memoir will be about, basically. And there will be some painful memories that probably, if I'm being completely honest, won't reflect well on my father. God rest his soul. He was a different kind of man. And like I said, you are the sum of your experiences. And some of us are defeated by those experiences in forms of depression and anxiety and never get past them. And some of us rise, but they're all lessons learned.
Right.
And I think that's the message that I seem to be more drawn to as far as keynote speaking, that you are the sum of your experiences, and if those experiences are bad, that doesn't mean that the sum is going to be bad. That you can learn from all the pain and all the angst and things that could have shaped you one way, but you went another way. But it's still interesting how those demons can continue to pull at you.
Yeah.
Despite that, I was cleaning out my office the other day, first time in years, and I ran across a letter from my father that was written in English, because he said in the letter, I was told that the last letter I wrote you couldn't read or understand correctly. It was in Greek. So your cousin is writing, and it was, there's a lot there there's a lot. I'll never completely conquer all of it. Right. With my father, because I get so many mixed stories about him. He's included periodically in a book that I'm trying to finish right now called I Wrote Down What You Were Thinking, which is a book of one-page essays that I did in 2018. I wrote a one-page essay every day for 365 days.
Oh, wow.
On whatever thought crossed my mind. And there's some in there about my father because that's the thought that crossed my mind.
Yeah.
I went to a wedding in Chicago for my cousin. His youngest daughter got married, and of course there was conversation about my father. And the name of that particular essay is "The Most Talked About Man in the Room Who Wasn't There." And through the years, I've heard all these different stories about why my father was the way he was. Some people say he was this or that. Some people say he was ill. Some people say he was mentally ill. Some people blame it on a blood disorder. Some people blame it on a brain tumor. Some people just say, and it's such a mixed message because my father was beloved by so many people. That you talk to any Icarian who went back and forth to visit my father on a regular basis, and they loved Jimmy. But you as the son, who are they talking about?
Right.
My cousin, my first cousin, my uncle's son, my father's brother, had a better relationship with my father over the years than I did. He would tell stories about him and my dad in Las Vegas. You were in Las Vegas with my father? Why wasn't? He tells us a great story about how these two guys were following him and getting ready to mug him in Vegas. And my father, very intuitive, instinctive guy, picked up on it and turned the tables on him. He started following them to the point where they got nervous. And, but the way my cousin tells this very colorful story about what a badass my father was, it's like, I relish in the telling of the story, and then I would get mad, So my message is in there somewhere about the some of those experiences and how you apply them in life. Are there elements of my father that are stuff that's bred in the bone?
Yep.
That you can't avoid. That's just the DNA. And are some of those things good? And the stuff that isn't good, is it going to come back, and is it going to play into my life as well at some point? And sometimes I think it has, and I was like, God damn it, he wasn't a good father. And when I got divorced, the most painful thing that bothered me is like, oh my God, am I going to be like my father? And in respects to how he, raised his children, because he really didn't. He was, my mother did.
Right.
I didn't want to be there, and thank God, I didn't. I think I've been a good father I have one daughter, and I think I've been a good dad. Not a great dad, there's things over the course of the years I look back on that I wish I would have done better. But that's the story, and that's what I'm trying to probably craft more, because I think, you want to be relatable in this world, right? And then in this of keynote speaking, right? And so I think that no matter who you are, that's relatable. Life is hard, man.
Right.
I mean, I don't care who you are. I mean, it's hard for different reasons. Even people that have had nothing but you hear about the people with the golden spoon, all their life.
Yeah.
I guarantee you,
Right.
there's something went awry in that life too. Maybe not financially, maybe not socially, maybe not, maybe they went through life and never wanted a thing, but they were lacking in something else. Everybody's got that.
Right.
So I think that's where my message, to get to my long-winded answer, is leaning more towards that.
So I wish we were videoing this, because just in that piece of describing, you should have seen your eyes. You had so much emotion in that message that you have, and you already got the title of your keynote.
What's that?
The sum of
your experiences?
The sum of your experiences.
Oh, I don't even know if that's the title, but okay.
I'm thinking that's the first thing I heard. That could be a title for that, and you delivering those stories of you and your dad. the tough time, and there are some happy times in there as well, and you know, bringing that audience up and down, but having tying it up in a bow and going,
also slip in some humor,
right?
Absolutely, well. You know, so there's some humor in there too, but yeah, that's the story. In this article I was telling you about, Boy Without a Country, and it's kind of that. That's how I felt like. I felt like a boy without a country. I'm this 9-year-old Greek boy from the States who's now living on an island, not accepted by the other kids at that particular point. Right. You know, there's one kid and he'll show up, he'll pop up in later installments of this 4-piece thing, but Apandelicara, he was the doctor's son. He befriended me and he became a great friend. And then it was funny, at one point, my mother, God bless her, you know, she was told to pack only the necessary things. We came by boat on the Queen Anna Maria out of New York.
Wow.
12-day boat ride, cruise, beautiful. Yeah. You know, to Piraeus. Yeah. And then once that fantasy was over, you know, the 12-day cruise, that's when the reality set in. We went from and this is in the first installment. Went from a cruise ship to for lack of a better word, piece of crap steamer boat that was going to go from Piraeus to Icaria. You know, we went from luxury accommodations on a cruise ship to sitting in a row of seats on a boat for 12 hours. You know, wow. You went from a guy with who was playing a handheld xylophone to announce that breakfast was being served and lunch was being served to purchasing wrap sandwiches and some sort of soft drink from whatever concession stand was on the boat. And these are the things that are in my memory. Yeah. Are they accurate? You know, would they be debated? Probably. You know, will someone else remember them differently? You know, my sister was 4 years younger. She may not. But my cousins, would they remember them differently? Probably. Everybody's got a different interpretation. This is how I remember them. Right. So in that 4-piece article, I will try to capture some of that Icaria in 1968 and how it felt for a 9-year-old. Because I left at 11. I was sent back to the States to live with my grandparents and my yaya and my papu in Steubenville without my mother.
So that's how you got to Ohio.
Without my mother, without my father, without my sister for a little more than 2 years. Then my mother and my sister eventually came over because my parents' marriage disintegrated, continued to disintegrate, and my mother came back with my sister. But I was 2 years with Yaya and Papu and Uncle Chris in Steubenville, Ohio. And that's a story. That's like some of your experiences, part 2, you know, living with a domineering Yaya who wouldn't let you do anything, you know, because your mother's not here. You know, she's, I mean, a very closed off, you know, go to church. You can be an altar boy. You know, you can do anything involved with the church. Yeah. You're not going on field trips. I'm not signing that permission slip. You're not playing sports. I'm not signing that permission slip. You can go to the library, which that was her gift to me, whether she realized it or not. I became a voracious reader, still am to this day. You can go to the movies. The Capitol Theater in Steubenville was, down the street. I'd go to the movies. I picked up a love for movies, but man, and talk about not doing anything right. My yaya, God bless her, but she... And like I said, some of your experiences, this is where some of the demons still exist. Maybe this is why there's a pile of manuscripts sitting at home that I don't think are good enough, because I developed a horrible inferiority complex. I had it when I was in Greece, and then it just took on a different shape and form when I came to Steubenville. It was just another person, not maliciously,
right,
not maliciously, but it was just another form of that type of inferiority, you know.
Did you hear that inferiority complex when your parents would say, well, what would they think? What would the neighbors think? What would the people in the church think?
My mother still has some of that.
Yeah.
My mother still has some of that. My mother was never more proud to say that her son, had the #1 radio show in Columbus, Ohio. Well, what's my mother got to say now? She's not going to talk about the podcast. She's not going to talk about the movie. You know, it's interesting what our parents can comfortably wrap themselves around to claim, and it's interesting what they don't want to claim.
When the first book came out, my mother would introduce me. My son Peter, the author.
There you go.
For a year.
Right?
Second book came out. Hey, my son Peter.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Stand-up comedian for years. Yeah. Mother never mentioned a word about it.
Right.
Make a national television debut on Fox with a show called I can't remember the name of the show. It was in the 90s. Then now I'm a stand-up comedian because I'm on television nationwide. Yeah. Comic Strip Live, on Fox. Yeah. Then my mother, my son's on television. Yeah. Same thing with the movie. You know, the movie's a great little movie. Street Where We Live, by the way. The Street Where We Live on Amazon Prime. You know, my mom, oh, that's great. Is it going to be in the theaters? No, Ma, it's on Amazon. Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, never good enough. And what was somebody, I finally told them, I don't care what other people think anymore. Maybe it's because I got into today's act. I don't care. I just want to do what I think is right. And if it's too edgy or whatever, Mom, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. I quit worrying about what other people think anymore.
Cool, calm, and neglected.
Cool, calm, and neglected. Exactly. Cool, calm, and neglected. Well, we've been at this for an hour. We could be at this for 2 hours or plus.
Oh, so probably.
I'm gonna make the invitation that after this podcast, we have a part 2, maybe this summer, maybe in the fall.
Whatever you want.
Catch up with what's going on, as well as to find out where you will be speaking professionally, into what groups and stuff. So
I think that part of it is the business side of it. That I need to learn how. And Dave Caperton has made some suggestions, and so have you as well. And I'm going to put those suggestions into place. Part of it is the part that I'm a dinosaur with, the social media side of it. You know, I had a LinkedIn account 20 years ago that I haven't touched. I'm going to revisit that tonight, as a matter of fact, and update it and start putting these things out there that I'm available for, and so forth and so on. But yeah, we can come back and chat again for sure if you'd like to. And you need to come on Whiskey Business.
Absolutely.
WhiskeyBusinessShow.com. Whiskey Business, the podcast, not so much about whiskey as it is one with whiskey. You can find us on Instagram, and you can find you can find our social media on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You can find the podcast anywhere you get your podcasts, iTunes, SoundCloud, et cetera, et cetera.
You should promote do you promote Whiskey Business on LinkedIn?
No, I haven't touched. I wasn't exaggerating. I have not touched that LinkedIn page in 20 years.
Yeah, you need to get that up. You start promoting on LinkedIn, because
I also have DinoTripodis.com, which has been sitting idle on GoDaddy for 10 years.
But you still have it.
Oh, it's mine. Yeah. I pay for it every year. Yeah. Just haven't turned it on.
But you're going to be turning it on.
Yes.
And putting the website with all your stuff.
All my stuff.
All your stuff. That's you.
Then I'm going to put the movies, the stand-up, the writings, the podcast. Yeah. Dino Tripodis, you'll be sick of me by the time it's all said and done. But these are things that this is my Achilles heel. These are the things that I'm not good at. I can sit at home and write all day long and create till the cows come home. But then everybody's got what do you let? For me, it's the next step, So I need to get better at the next step.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be that big of a step. It's just understanding some of the business aspect of professional speaking.
Well, that's a huge step.
But I think the learning curve is going to be quicker than you anticipate.
Let's hope, because I'm 60.
You're 60. Someone told me, hey Pete, that runway is getting shorter. You got less room to take off. Like, oh, thanks, I appreciate that.
Well, I remember I went to one of those. Aside from the initial meeting where I saw you, I went to one of those workshops.
Paid to speak
workshop. Yeah. And I remember the guy saying, whatever you're doing now, you'll have this, you'll probably have it nailed down in 10 years. I go, 10 years? No, I don't have 10 years.
Well, yeah, but then again, you've had more in the public eye. Much more versus some people who have been in the corporate world or who are authors are trying to do this.
I like to think of the time I've spent in broadcasting and podcasting and stand up and so forth. What is it when you you get college credit when you go back to school for life experience.
Yeah.
I like to think that I've accumulated, at least 5 to 7 years on that 10-year plan that he was talking about that I could put into play.
Yeah, I think you're at a master's degree level, just waiting to get to the PhD.
Yeah,
that's all you got to do, just a PhD, because you're comfortable for audiences, clearly.
I would just give me the bachelor's at this point. That would make my mother happy, because I never graduated from college. So, that was always a sore spot with her. Thank God the Queen did.
Oh, yeah.
It's the good child.
The good child, yeah. the good child. Well, it's great catching up. It's great having you on the podcast.
It's been a pleasure, man.
And it was a lot of fun. And like I told you this morning, I've known you for a while, but I learned a lot about you this morning doing the research. And some of it we touched on, some of it we haven't. I'll say that for the next time.
I'll save it for the next time. When you said I did some research, and I was like, I told you what'd you find? Because I don't pay any attention to that stuff.
I mean, you got a number of movie credits. You've the part. I saw that you acted in, what was the one I was mentioning? Bottom Feeders.
The 90s crime epic, the Quentin Tarantino-like movie that wasn't.
But there's a big name actor in that movie.
John Saxon.
Yeah. And then when I was digging around, I was like, whoa, he's co-produced on a number of things.
Yeah.
Then I find out that you got your own production company.
Right.
And the one that in 2017, I can't remember. We were just talking about the movie. It's on Amazon.
The one right now?
Yeah.
The Street Where We Live?
Yeah, that was filmed in Columbus.
Oh, yeah. Most of it in Clintonville.
Yeah.
Clintonville.
Easton.
No, that was the very first short film I did. I did The Funny Man.
That's right.
The Funny Man.
That was in Easton.
That was guerrilla filmmaking at its best, because we shot at Easton at nighttime after it was closed down.
Yeah.
The fountain scene. Yeah. Wow. That was forever ago, too.
Yeah. But that was filmed here in Central Ohio.
Oh, yeah.
So.
But The Street Where We Live was filmed mostly in the Clintonville, Grandview, and Upper Arlington area. And the factory that opens up the film was shot on the west side. And that factory is closed since then, which is kind of ironic because this is about, a film that takes place at the height of the recession when everything started to go south.
Yeah.
And that whole, I'm 2 paychecks away from being out on the street.
Right.
And that's what happens to this mom and her single mom and her kids.
Yeah,
so
I will give that a watch tonight, as well as the episode with your mom.
And everybody says, when are you going to write something funny for the screen? And it's like, funny's harder.
Well, I mean, do the selective listening. Mm-hmm. That's funny.
It is funny.
I mean, you had me in tears when you were telling me.
But is it a whole movie? No, it's a scene in a movie.
You can build around that.
Yeah, so you got to start somewhere.
You could take your whole life story and build as this, and that be the part of it. I need to contact Ted Sarandis at Netflix and pitch it to him. There you go. And give him a call. Just give him a buzz. Just give him a buzz. His family's from Chios. That's close. That's close. It's in Greece. He's Greek. There's Greeks everywhere. Yeah. So, I'll pitch that to him as either a drama or a comedy, whatever you want. Either one of them, both. Cool. All right, man. I'm taking up enough of your time. Oh no. It's Monday. I think I'm going to take a nap now. Yeah. See. Yeah. 42 minutes. 42 minutes. Exactly. Thanks, Dino. Thank you, Peter. I would like to thank Dino for his time and sharing his wisdom, stories, and humor with us. I hope you all take time and reflect on we are the sum of our experiences. How will you begin to change your mindset and let go of that past baggage that holds you back? This does not happen overnight, and you have to work on it every single day. Thank you for listening, and if you're enjoying the podcast, please take a moment and leave a review on iTunes or whatever platform you download your podcast from. Also, please subscribe and share this episode with a friend. Make today and every day your best day.
Like what you just heard, visit c-suiteradio.com. C-Suite Radio, turning the volume up on business.